The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm your host, Patrick Cristiano, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs in New York City and the Hamptons. And we cover Broadway and off-Broadway theater as well as social events here in the Hamptons and in New York. And today we're coming to you from the Wainscott Studio, LTV in Wainscott. And my guest is a playwright, author, actor, Stephen Fales, who has written a new show called Confessions of a Mormon Boy. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you so much for coming to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Stephen's show is going to be at Bay Street on the 17th through the 22nd. We're going to talk about his process of how he got there.
Yeah.
So Stephen, tell me a little bit about your life as a Mormon boy.
Oh,
you were
wow.
married, you have
You know, I'm a
children.
true blue Mormon. My writing studio is in Salt Lake City, so I just came in for the gala that was the other night. And,
wasn't that fun?
Oh,
And
I haven't had that much fun in so long. And Jane Lynch was the MC. And then we were out at the wharf, and it was just so fabulous, and it's all the Hamptons.
And you were in the concert show before. You did a
Yes,
little,
yes, I got to do a little introduction, which was, you
so
know.
everyone now knows who you are.
I hope so. Yeah, so it's just great to be out here at Bay Street. They say that, you know, people who work at Bay Street, actors who work at Bay Street, they've been good in a past life. They must have been good. So the theater's just so, the community here is amazing.
It's pretty special. It really
Yeah.
is. You know, Sybil Christopher created Bay Street. I don't know if you know that. She was the artistic director originally, like 27 years ago now. But
Really?
really,
Wow.
yeah. So, but Scott Schwartz is going to direct your piece.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
Well, he was given the script by some producers I was working with, and he was on the top of our short list. And he loved the scripts in Mormon Boy Trilogy, which are Confessions of a Mormon Boy, Mission Statement, and Prodigal Dad. And there are these 3 solo plays in repertory, right? So I had been writing these for about 10 years, you know, and looking for the right director. And Scott has just the right sensibility. You know, he's a master of his craft.
Oh, he's fabulous.
And he just got the themes, and it was just like, I went out to San Francisco to meet him because he was working on Prince of Egypt out there in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. And so we met, and he had read the scripts, and he got the stories, and came aboard. And so the last 6 months, we have been working across the country. I'll come out to New York and have sessions, or he'll be in Denmark, you know, directing.
You've gone to Denmark for sessions?
And so we'll Skype.
Oh.
You know, because you can
Right,
Skype.
right.
So we have worked, and then he'll give me notes on what I've rewritten. I'll go back and cry and laugh, and the story gets deeper, and then he gives me new notes. So now we get to try the new Confessions of a Mormon Boy on the main stage. We're in repertory with Frost Nixon. So, you know, Frost Nixon will go, and then I'll go for 5 shows coming up.
You play the 17th to the 22nd, and then on Sunday the 22nd, you're going to have a reading of the second part of the trilogy, which is called what?
Mission Statement.
Mission Statement. And then on Monday at 4, you're going to have the third part of the trilogy, which is called what?
It's called Prodigal Dad.
Prodigal Dad.
So together, it's this epic. Oh, and those readings are at the Whalers Church.
Ah.
Because they have to, you know, get ready for the next show. So,
So you've written music for this piece too, right?
yeah, these are stories. It's not a musical, but there are snippets of singing because I was a musical theater major. So, you know, part of my storytelling is singing and movement and dance. But we're telling some intense stories here with a lot of warmth and humor at the same time.
So we have a song that you wrote called Mormon Boy that kind of sets up the journey or the place you're coming from?
I used it in an earlier version of Confessions as a Mormon Boy anthem, you know, yeah, it's kind of like the theme from Confessions of a Mormon Boy, and we used it at the curtain call. But yeah, I'm a songwriter, I'm a playwright, all of those things.
You want to show this to the people?
Yeah, yeah.
Mormon boy, fight the fight. Mormon boy, choose the right. Mormon boy, touch the sky. Mormon boy, don't you cry. Mormon boy, true is true. Mormon boy, when you're through, Mormon boy, you will see you can be truly free.
It's just a little, has a country feel.
Yeah, it's-
But I'm from the Mountain West, so these are real stories from the Mountain West. And I'm a sixth generation Mormon. So these are stories from the Mountain West, and I'm a sixth generation Mormon. So, I try to write with a real authenticity of the Mountain West. This isn't just the Book of Mormon, the musical, or what Tony Kushner thinks of a Mormon. This is really, the culture is so rich and three-dimensional that I'm really trying to capture. Now that the world is kind of getting to know what a Mormon might be with Mitt Romney and people like that, we've kind of had a Mormon moment for a while. Well, there are a lot of writers that are trying to write the full, all the dimensions of the Mormon experience.
What I think would be really interesting. Tell us, what happened when you're a Mormon. You're like, it's an indoctrination almost. I mean, like tell us what happens. What are the restrictions on you as a Mormon?
Well, there's the doctrine and there's the culture. You see,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be like, imagine being and sometimes they're collapsed together. So it's a lot of family, big families. You're not supposed to drink or use drugs, or there's a lot of wholesome living. But gender roles are very, very rigid because we have the Mormon eternity. You have Heavenly Father and his wife, Heavenly Mother, who are having all these spirit babies to come down to earth, and he has many wives. So it's a polygamous eternity, right? And it's very patriarchal. So to be gay in the Mormon world, it just is incongruous. What your eternities is supposed to look a very particular, rigid way. And what happens is the Mormon temples, there's a difference between the Mormon meeting house and the Mormon temples. And in the Mormon temple ceremony are like all the Freemason rituals that Joseph Smith reinvented. And most reporters don't even know what to ask Mitt Romney because the ceremonies are so secret. Well, I went through all those ceremonies, but when I was excommunicated, it kind of freed me. So I tell my story of what it was to be an insider's insider within the Mormon church. And then I was excommunicated, which is a very medieval barbaric cult tactic that they used to control the people.
Right.
So I had done all that conversion therapy and reparative therapy to be straight. And I had married a woman who was a beautiful, beautiful woman, and we hit it off as friends, and our cuddling kept us close. And we had 2 beautiful children, and an interesting wrinkle is that her dad was gay and died of AIDS. And her mother was a famous writer who wrote about all of this in a book called Goodbye, I Love You, published by Random House in the 80s. So Emily and I meet at BYU, and we think, we can write a new story.
You meet at where?
At Brigham Young University,
Okay.
where all good Mormons go to find a wife.
And you found one.
And I hit pay dirt with one of the most talented, beautiful women I have ever met in my life. Blonde, beautiful, smart, sensitive. And we signed up for the impossible with this new reparative therapy.
But you really loved her too.
Oh, I still do.
Yeah.
Can't stand her, but we love each other. Kidding. But see, her mother was a famous memoirist, and I wanted to tell my story from my point of view as a real gay Mormon. She told her ex-husband's story about how he died of AIDS, but the book was really about her. So I was afraid if I were to die, there would be no one I fully trusted to tell my story in all its complication. It's a complex story. So anyhow, we thought we could write a different story from her parents. And after 7 years of marriage that included grad school in Connecticut, it got too hard. And we moved back to Utah. And I basically came out and I was hauled in right away to a church court where I was formally tried as a homosexual in the year 2000.
Wow.
And I had a spiritual experience in that church court, and that's one of the reasons I wrote Confessions, so that people can hear what I heard in the midst of my whole life.
What was that?
Crashing. Well, you have to come see the show.
Oh, but what was your spiritual experience?
Well, you'll have to come see the play.
We can't get into that, huh?
There's a lot of secrets in Confessions. There's a lot of reveals. And if I were to tell you everything right now, that wouldn't do justice to the theatrical experience.
But we do have a clip from an older version that Scott didn't direct of the
An early
Mormon-
developmental run.
An early develop, just to give them a taste. We're going to just give them a little bit of a tease
Great.
of what your show's like.
Yeah.
Okay? We're going to pull it up on the monitor.
So to show Emily I was repentant so I wouldn't lose her and the kids, I turned myself in. Again. Hi, Bishop. I'm sorry to call you so late. It's Brother Fales. Fales. We shook hands once at church. I've been unfaithful. And it hasn't been with a woman. Get a blood test? Okay. Sure, I can meet you tomorrow. 2 o'clock. See you then. He was a sincere man with white hair, a kind round face, and glasses. Kind of like Santa Claus. Brother Stephen! We all have something in this life that we have to overcome. I deal with swearing. I was then sent on to the next ecclesiastical leader, the stake president. I remember walking into the stake center next door, one of the conveniences of living in Utah. I checked in with the executive secretary who sat behind the glass. It felt so clinical. I couldn't believe it was actually me sitting there. Would I be excommunicated? And wasn't excommunication for the wicked? How would I come to this? I'd only ever wanted to be a good boy and do what was right. If I were exed, I wouldn't be allowed to take the sacrament or pay tithing or pray or sing in church again. The Holy Ghost would no longer be with me. And beyond this, I would be barred from seeing my children in the afterlife. Memories of my years of church participation flooded me. Like most Mormons. Church was my life. Getting baptized by my dad when I was 8. Getting blessings from him when I was sick. Passing the sacrament to my mother for the first time when I was 12 in my new white shirt and tie. War Christmas parties, stake road shows, scouting and church sports, youth dances and firesides. Good times. Good people. In the temple, everyone dressed in white. I love just sitting in the chapel, listening to the hymns played on the organ or praying in the celestial room. Quiet, peaceful, holy, holiness to the Lord. I believed it with all my heart. And every dream I'd ever had was centered around the church. Just then the stake president opened his office door and stepped out. The bishop said I'd really like him. You must be Brother Fales? Welcome. It must be very difficult for you to be here. Thank you for coming. The Lord loves you. That's what I imagined him saying.
Wow, that is really strong stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were officially excommunicated,
Yeah.
and that's abuse.
Well, it's religious abuse, spiritual abuse, and religious violence against LGBT people, but it happens to many different people.
And then they come and get you. Is that what they do? How do they find out? How do they know anything?
Well, I turned myself in because Emily, I was cheating a little at the end of the marriage to see what this is after all the therapy, and so I turned myself in to keep my marriage together. But then they tore my marriage apart and my life apart with that excommunication, and then I went reeling.
Yeah.
And so many people who are kicked out of their churches and out of their homes, they find it a very tough road out there, and they can get into lots of trouble.
Yeah, well, because you've lost your foundation that was your guiding point for your whole life, and you find it as something that doesn't support you anymore in any kind of way, and it is antagonistic to who you actually are.
So I was vulnerable.
It's devastating.
So I was vulnerable to drugs and to the sex industry and to many things, trying to put myself together. So we got out of that too, which was even
So that's
harder.
that's really what your show is about, because when you were excommunicated, you went on this spiral that led you to all kinds of dark places.
Yes, and then how did I get my life back? That's why I'm sharing this. You know.
And so, but it becomes a catalyst for other people to do the same thing. And it's an inspiration.
Well, yeah. So I wrote. I didn't want it to be too heavy. You know, I didn't want to, because these are heavy subjects, right? So I wanted to make it funny.
I would say they're heavy subjects.
So I took
yes.
this stand-up course. You know, I had an MFA in acting, right, and whatever that is, all the classics, all the Shakespeare, all the American classics. My first union job was doing Death of a Salesman, and
Which part did you play?
Hap. And
I can see you doing Hap.
yeah.
It's a great play too.
Yeah, so I had all of that, but I didn't know what was to be me on stage. Let me play anyone but me, you know. And so I took a stand-up comedy course in Manhattan when my life started to, you know, I took this other course that you'll see in the show.
Do they teach you something about stand?
I started to make my story funny. So it started out, hi, I'm Stephen Fales, and I'm a Mormon, and that's why I smile like this. And this is before the Book of Mormon. You know, this is before all...
You're ahead of your time.
Yeah. So people were like, what is a Mormon? You know, this was like the year 2001 in Manhattan. And I kept developing and developing it. And so there's a lot of warmth and humor with these really, you know, serious subjects. You know, I'm an oxymormon. I'm an Ethel Mormon. I'm a Brokeback Mormon. I'm just a Latter-day Saint. But, you know, there are some real twists that there's a lot of humor. There's some new political humor. But the show isn't necessarily political. You know, it's just a story that encompasses many facets of life. And I think that's one of the great things about working with Scott is he's letting me just tell a story that's complex. This isn't pop art. This isn't propaganda art. This is personal narrative. And we're in an age where I think we can handle, you know, true stories.
True stories that are really done truthfully and not to manipulate, because it's what we need more of, because there's so much reality television where it's just spilling their guts and there's nothing.
Yes, and
this is not that.
Yes, and this is also about what is it to take responsibility for my own life. Because I've got a good story. I mean, could you blame me? I mean, really? Oh, he went through so much. And I did. I really did. But I also, if I'm going to hold any institution accountable, I'm going to hold myself just as accountable. So this is about how I learned to take responsibility for my life and put it back together with the help of a lot of angels that have helped me. But I believe that the storytelling gods are there to help stories. It's almost like the Greek muses or something, right? So
I never believed in the storytelling gods. How did you come to believe in them?
Well, my experience. You show up in the Hamptons, you don't know anybody, and then angels come to help you tell your story. There's a theater there, you know, and people are helping you get here and get there, and you know, this does not make you rich, people. But this is like another mission in a way that I'm on. But life and art came to this dynamic point, and you just answer the call, and you show up for to tell a good story, and that's ancient theater making in a whole modern twist. And the show's about my kids, you know.
Well, the trilogy aspect of it, because the process that happens then really gives you all kinds of opportunities to open up all different avenues that affect other people and the things that other people have to, that are similar to what you've gone through.
There's a lot of groups that people will relate to. You don't have to be gay to get this. I'm a dad, and fighting for your rights as a father in the courts. And I hope Alec Baldwin is listening to this, because he's one of my heroes in how he had to, you know, fight for his rights as a dad. So I belong to the father's rights movement. So Prodigal Dad is a courtroom dramedy about fighting for my rights in Utah. And that's a topical issue today, you know, and dads are an endangered species today. They're, Alec Baldwin's book, A Promise to Ourselves, his journey through fatherhood and divorce. Alec Baldwin's book just
you read? What's it called?
It's called A Promise to Ourselves.
Oh, okay.
And it tells his full story as a dad. He's a lion-hearted father, and he gave me so much courage And so it's fun to be in his backyard. I hope he can come
It's
and
really
see
funny because last Sunday we were at the beach at Indian Wells, and we're trying to find a really cool place, and we get all settled down, and we turn around, and who's next to us? Alec Baldwin with his wife, the nanny, and the children. And the only reason I'm telling you this story is the whole time we were there, he was digging with the kids.
Yeah.
Did
Listen,
not
the
come
best
up for
time of my
air.
life.
He was just digging in the sand.
The best time of my life where I was a busy young dad with those kids in Connecticut, so stressed out as a grad student, but it's like your kids are wind in your sails. They fill your soul. They give you so much. So this whole thing is a Valentine to my children who are now in college, and I don't hear from them enough.
But do you still have a relationship with them?
Yeah. They say that they say that the aliens return your children when they're 24. So no matter how good you have it, it's father, and it's about complicated father-son relationships. You should meet my doctor father, the perfect bishop, cowboy Dr. Fales. He is a huge piece of this. My complicated relationship with my
With your
dad.
father, right.
With my dad.
What kind of doctor?
He's a GP, a GOP GP. And so that relationship. So I think that we talk really specifically about a particular Mormon family, but it's all about family. And
Right.
that's universal.
Right.
We all come from a family. So I hope people will learn some of their story by hearing mine. And as you get in touch with your own story, I want to propose that it's all we have to change the world.
Right, it's true.
And not everyone's meant to get on stage or write a book and tell your story. And there are occupational hazards to doing that. But there may come a time when your personal story, the storytelling gods will tap you on the shoulder and go, "You're it." And your story is going to save that life or help that young man or help that woman, help that young girl. And so it's all about telling stories. So I couldn't be in better hands than to be at Bay Street telling a story.
Yeah, and now you're good, but you're going to take it off Broadway. How is this going to happen off Broadway? Will it be each year, or is it going to run?
We will be doing all 3 solo plays in repertory.
That's
So we have a theater picked out.
But you can't tell us the theater yet.
No, but it's all lining up. We did a workshop there. We have an amazing artistic team, so we'll have projection. Here at Bay Street, you're just...
And your producer is Richard Frankel?
Our executive producer is Richard Frankel Productions.
And they did hair?
He did hairspray.
Hairspray.
He did producers, just did Uma Thurman in The Parisian Woman, right? So they're helping us do that, but we're looking for co-producers and investors to do this commercial run. And so, yeah, there's a lot of money to raise, and we're here to just perfect the scripts. So imagine off Broadway, we have all of the projection, all of these other elements when that huge budget comes together. And then we do all 3. So you'll be able to see all 3 in a Mormon-thon, like on a Saturday. You'll see Confessions at 2, Mission Statement at 5, and Prodigal Dad.
Oh my God, and you have to do all 3 of them?
Well, listen,
wow.
it's my mission. It's my Olympics. It's
It's a marathon, definitely.
It's a dynamic storytelling solo performance event. And so I'll have an understudy, but, we're going to be doing some intense theater.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's incredible. So so will all 3 only play on a Saturday? How's that?
Well, you could see it every other night. So one night's Confessions, another
So
night's
every
Mission.
third night, is that how it goes? You'll change everything?
Basically, it's a dynamic
or it hasn't
thing.
really
I
been
want to
set.
do 9 shows a week, and you can see it across in many different ways. We'll see if my general manager lets me do that.
We're running out of time, and I wanted to play one more song that you have here.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
gonna
this
we're
one's
gonna
written
off
for my kids. It's like my little ode to Utah in a little country way.
Well, we just have a minute, so
Yeah.
the show's at Bay Street Theater on the 17th through the 22nd. BayStreetTheater.org.
I'm going home to Utah. I gotta find my soul. I'm going where the girls are real and the men are whole. I'm going where the sun shines high and a cowboy can be true. I'm going home to Utah and I'm coming home to you. I miss the Rocky Mountains, there's nothing quite as tall. And summer wildflowers, aspens in the fall. But most of all I miss your touch and the wonder of your smile. A life with you in Utah is really more my style. Utah near you, Utah you and me. I trade these lights for stars and trade your kisses for these scars. There's no question now what I should do. You and Utah, you never let me down. Oh, you were all the reason I need for leaving this old town. Don't you worry, I'm gonna see this through. Just stay right there in Utah, a life with you in Utah. Coming home to Utah, and I'm coming home to you.